Good morning, students. For this lesson, we're going to be focusing on factorizing expressions. So you need to know how to find the HCF of terms in an algebraic expression. And you also need to understand factorizing is the inverse of expanding, and you'll get a little bit more understanding of that later on. And the aim of our lesson is to be able to factorize fully algebraic expressions. Here are your starter problems coming up. What I would like for you to do is expand the brackets. So for the last couple of lessons, you have been expanding brackets. Pause your video, work out your answers. Then once you're through, unpause and check for the correct answers. Here are the answers to the starter. Pause the video, mark your work. When you're through, unpause the video and resume the lesson. In order to factorize, we need to be able to find the highest common factor of terms. So what we're going to do is a quick refresher on how to find highest common factor, and that will take us into factorizing our expressions. So let's look at a few highest common factor problems. So here are some questions. And for the first question, it says, what is the highest common factor of 3 and 9? Now remember, when we find the highest factor, we're looking at the biggest number that can divide 3 and 9 without a remainder. And so our biggest number that divides 3 and 9 without leaving a remainder is 3. Let's look at number 2. What is the highest common factor of 4 and 20? Again, this is the biggest number that will divide 4 and 20 without leaving a remainder, and that number is 4. Now what I'd like for you to do is to pause the video, spend 5 minutes trying to work out the highest common factor for the other questions. When you're through, unpause the video and check for the answers. So here are your answers. So the highest common factor of 6 and 8 is 2. That's the biggest number that will divide those two numbers without leaving a remainder. For the highest common factor of 5 and 9, the highest common factor is 1. 1 is the biggest number that we can use to divide 5 and also divide 9, where there will be no remainder. So the highest common factor of two numbers can be 1. Then we can see number 5, highest common factor is 6, etc. So, when we factorize an expression, we need to bear in mind that is the opposite of expanding a bracket, alright? So if we look at this bracket question here, where we have a bracket b plus c, if we expand it, we will be going along this arrow to get rid of the brackets. When we factorize, we actually will be coming from this side that I'm now taking, and we are going back to reintroducing brackets into our expression. So our factorizing basically is finding factors that will multiply to give us an expression. So a can be multiplied by b plus c to give us the expression ab plus ac. So oftentimes when we expand an expression, we are removing the brackets, as I mentioned earlier, And when we factorize an expression, we're actually reintroducing brackets to find out what factors would multiply to give the original expression. Now we're going to look at how we're going to factorize this expression 3y plus 15. So the boxes would look familiar from our expanding brackets, and we're going to continue to use that to help us with our factorizing. So here where I'm drawing our line, that's where our highest common factor is going to go. Okay, our question is 3y and positive 15, because that is the expression. All we need to do is look for the biggest number that will divide 3 and 15 without a remainder, and that is 3. So the highest common factor is 3. And all we need to do, remembering from our expanding brackets, we had to multiply some terms. So what we need to do is find out 3 times what is going to give us 3y, and that's y. We also need to find out 3 times what is going to give us this 15. 3 times 5. So it's a positive 5. So we'll write plus 5. So then when we factorize, our answer is going to be our highest common factor 3, then bracket the two terms that we got on top, y plus 5. And we have factorized. Let's look at another example. So I'm going to write the question in the box, or 5x and or minus 10. Keep the sign. Our highest common factor will come to the left. And so now we can check what is the biggest number that will divide 5 and 10 without leaving a remainder, and that number is 5. Since we need to multiply some terms to get what's inside the box, we just need to find out what will go inside the boxes here. So 5 times x will give us 5x, and 5 times minus 2 will give us a minus 10. So when we factorize, our answer is going to be our highest common factor 5 bracket x minus 2. Here's another example. We're going to find our highest common factor, all right? And first of all, let us write down the two terms we have, 8x plus 2. Right, so the biggest number that's gonna go into 8 and minus 2 without leaving a remainder will be our highest common factor, and that number is 2. Then, because we need to multiply our terms, we need to find out what do we multiply our 2 by to get minus 8x, and that's going to be a minus 4x. Then what do we multiply our 2 by to get 2, and that is a positive 1. So when we factorize, our highest common factor 2 bracket minus 4x plus 1 will be our factorized answer. We can even write it as 2 bracket, put the positive 1 in front, and then put our minus 4x afterwards. Either way, they're the same things, right? So that's our factorized expression. Let's look at this example. We have 9x plus 3y to factorize. So we're going to write those in the respective boxes. Then we need the highest common factor. We have 9 and 3, the highest common factor. The biggest number that divides 9 and 3 is 3. We also have x and y, but they're not common. They're different terms. And so our overall highest common factor is just 3. then all we need to do is find the two terms which will multiply to give 9x and 3y. So 3 times 3x will give us 9x, and 3 times 1y is going to give us 3y. So our answer is going to be 3 open bracket 3x plus y. I'd now like you to try these 4 questions that are coming up. So you're going to factorize them. Pause your video, do your questions, then unpause to check for your answers. Okay, let's check the answers. For the first question, we're going to draw a grid, write 3a and 6 inside, and now we need to identify our highest common factor. That's our first thing. The highest common factor of 3 and 6, let me put my plus 6 there because that's what was in the question. The highest common factor of 3 and 6 is 3, and then we need to find the two terms that will multiply to give us 3a and 6. So 3 times a will give us 3a, and 3 times positive 2 will give us positive 6. So our final answer is 3 times a plus 2. For the second question, we will draw our grid and write 6a minus 4 inside. We now need to find our highest common factor. So the biggest number that will divide 6 and minus 4 is 2. And then we will now need to check for the two terms that will multiply to give us 6a and minus 4. 2 times 3a will give us 6a, and 2 times minus 2 will give us minus 4. So our answer is going to be 2 bracket 3a minus 2. So we have factorized the first two questions, and remember, when we factorize, we're reintroducing brackets to find what two factors will multiply to give our expression. Let's look at our third question. So we draw our grid again, minus 8x plus 20, find our highest common factor, and our highest common factor here is 4. That's the biggest number that will divide 8 and 20. And then we find the two terms that we need to multiply to get minus 8x and positive 20. So 4 times a minus 2x will give us minus 8x, and a 4 times a positive 5 will give us positive 20. So our answer is 4 open bracket minus 2x plus 5. We can also rewrite that as 4 open bracket positive 5 in front, then the minus 2x afterwards. Now for our fourth question, we will draw our grid as is the norm, write our minus 9x inside and our minus 15. Then find our highest common factor. The highest common factor for minus 9 and minus 15 is 3. Now we need to find the two terms that will multiply to give us minus 9x and minus 15. So 3 times a minus 3x will give us minus 9x, and 3 times a minus 5 will give us a minus 15. So our answer is 3 open bracket minus 3x minus 5. We can also rewrite this as we have two negatives inside our bracket, so it can be written as a minus 3 open bracket 3x plus 5. If you should expand this bracket, you will definitely get a minus 9x and minus 15. Let's look at this word problem. It says Liam says when 8x plus 12 is factorized, the answer is 2 open bracket 4x plus 6, and Danny says when 8x plus 12 is factorized, the answer is 4 open bracket 2x plus 3, and we need to see who is correct. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from Liam's answer, where we have 2 open bracket 4x plus 6, and we are going to expand as we would have done in our previous lesson. So 2 goes on the outside, 4x goes on top, and 6, then we multiply. 4x times 2 is 8x, and 2 times 6 gives us positive 12. So he gets 8x plus 12. That's what Liam got. So when he factorized, he got this, which gave us 8x plus 12. Let's look at Danny's answer. 4 open bracket 2x plus 3. We're going to expand his bracket to see if he gets 8x plus 12. So 4 outside, 2x on top, and plus 3. Then we multiply. 4 times 2x gives us 8x. 4 times 3 gives 12. Well, look at this. Both of them, when we expand their answers, we actually get 8x plus 12. Now, it's safe to say that both of them are correct. However, Danny's answer is fully factorized because he has used the highest common factor. Liam used 2, which divides 8 and 12, but it's not the biggest number that divides 8 and 12. Danny has used 4, which is the biggest number that divides 8 and 12 without leaving a remainder. So even though both of them are correct, Danny's answer is fully factorized. Here is your first task. I'd like you to spend 15 minutes doing bronze, silver, or gold. Pause the video, attempt the questions, then once you're through, resume the video to check for your answers. Here are your answers. Pause the video, mark your work. Once you're through, you can unpause and resume to continue with the lesson. Alright, on this slide we're going to check how to find the highest common factor when we actually have variables involved. Okay, so for number 1, we can see that x is common to both, and so we need to know what the power on x would be for this one, and that power is going to be 1. Once you've done that, you're going to identify which power is the smallest for the common variable, and this one is smaller because x to the power of 1 would be smaller than x to the power of 2, so it therefore means that our highest common factor is x. Let's look at number 2. We have x cubed and x squared, so the common variable we have is x, and we're going to check for the powers on both of them. We have cubed and we have squared. It therefore means that for our highest common factor, we will pick the one with a smaller power, so that is our highest common factor, x squared. What I want you to do for a challenge is to pause your video, try to find the highest common factor for these 3 questions, and then resume the video to check the answer. Okay, now a and b are common to both terms, and so we're going to start with the a's first. We have a squared, and then we have a to the power of 1. A to the power of 1 is a smaller power for the a's, and so the a here would be our highest common factor for the a's. Then we have b cubed and we have b squared. B squared is the smaller of the two, and so we take that for the highest common factor in b. So it therefore means that our highest common factor for those two terms is ab squared. Let's look at number 4. The common variable that we have is b, and so we're just going to look at the powers in b to determine which one is our highest common factor. And again, we will take the smaller power for our highest common factor, so it therefore means that the highest common factor for number 4 is b squared. Now for number 5, we have 3 terms. We have a squared b, we have a cubed c, and we have a squared. When we look at the 3 terms, the common variable is a. So all we have to do is just check the powers in a to see which one is the smaller, and that will be our highest common factor. So we have a squared here, we have a squared here, and we have a cube here. So the smaller power, the smallest power, smaller power of the terms is a squared, so it therefore means that our highest common factor is a squared. Now we're going to put that into practice, and so we have our grid already drawn. We're just going to put the terms inside the box. We'll get a, b, and positive a, y. Then we're going to look for our highest common factor. Now a is common to both, and they both have a power of 1, and so it therefore means that our highest common factor will just be a to the power of 1. We don't need to write the power of 1. Then what we need to do is find the 2 terms which will multiply to give a, b, and a, y. And for this box, it will be a times b, which gives us ab, and a times a positive y, which will give us ay. And so for our factorized answer, it's going to be a bracket b plus y. Here's another example. Our terms will go inside our grid. We will identify our highest common factor. If we look at the terms, x is common to both, and so we just check for the powers. The powers in x is 1, so our highest common factor is just going to be x to the power of 1. We don't need to write the power of 1 there. Then find the 2 terms which will multiply to give x and xy. X times 1 will give us 1x, and x times positive y will give us xy. So our answer is going to be x open bracket 1 plus y. Let's look at this example. So we're going to write our terms inside the grid. Right. Now we have numbers and variables combined, and we need to find the highest common factor for those. So we don't know what number is in front of ay. We know, however, that when there are no numbers, it's a 1. So it's 1ay. So all we'll do now is find the highest common factor of 4 and 1. And the biggest number that can divide 4 and 1 is 1. Then we check for the letters that are common to both terms. That's a and a. They're common. Both powers is 1. So it therefore means that the highest common factor in a is actually just a. Then what we need to do now is find the 2 terms which will multiply to give us 4a and ay. So 1a times 4 is going to give us 4a, and 1a times a positive y is going to give us ay. Now our answer will therefore be 1a, where we don't need to write the 1, just write the a. That represents 1a. Then open bracket 4 plus y, close bracket. Now if you should expand this that you've just written, you will get 4a plus ay. Let's look at another example. Our terms will go inside the grid. find our highest common factor. So we have two numbers, 2 and 4. We need to find the highest common factor for those two numbers, and that is 2. And then we have x being common to both, where the power in x is 1. So then the highest common factor in x is just x. So our highest common factor overall is 2x. We now need to find what term we will multiply by 2x to give us 2xy and 4xz. 2x times a positive y will give us 2xy, and 2x times 2z is gonna give us 4xz. So our answer is gonna be 2x open bracket y plus 2z. In this question, we have a squared and minus 3a, so they will go in their respective boxes. Then we will find our highest common factor. Now, our number in front of a squared, we call it coefficient. It's 1, so it's 1a squared. So we need to find the highest common factor of 1 and minus 3, and that is 1. Then a is common to both. So all we need to do is select the a with a smaller power. As we know, the a here has a power of 1. So that means that we'll have to choose this a for the highest common factor in a. So we'll write that outside. So our overall highest common factor is 1a, or just a. Then we'll have to find the two terms that will multiply to give us a squared and minus 3a. So 1a times a will give us a squared, and 1a times minus 3 will give us minus 3a. So it therefore means that our answer is going to be 1a, we don't need to write the 1 in front, open bracket a minus 3. Now for a final example on factorizing our expressions, we have 4a squared minus 8a, so those will go into their respective boxes. We have 4 and minus 8, so we need to find the highest common factor for that, and that's going to be 4. Then a squared and a have a in common, and we have to pick the a with a smaller power, and a is a to the 1. So that is the a that we're going to make our highest common factor. So overall, the highest common factor is 4a. Then we find the two terms that we will multiply to get 4a squared and minus 8a. 4a times a will give us 4a squared, and 4a times minus 2 will give us minus 8a. So our answer is 4a open bracket a minus 2. Now I'd like you to try these 6 questions, factorizing the expressions. Pause the video, spend no more than 5 to 10 minutes doing the questions, then resume the video to check your answers. Okay, for our first question, our common letter is x, so we just find the letter with the smallest power, and that is just x. So our highest common factor is x, and then we open bracket, x times 4 gives us 4x, and x times y gives us xy. That's our answer. Our next question, common letter again is a. The power in a is 1 for both, so the highest common factor is a. Then we open bracket, a times b gives us ab, and a times x gives us ax, and that's a times minus x to give us minus ax. Now for the third problem, we have our common letter in a, however we have different powers. The power is a squared and also a to the power of 1, so we choose the one with a smaller power, and that is a. Then we open bracket and find our two terms. A times A gives A squared, and then A times 2 will give us 2A. Now for our next problem, we have numbers and letters combined, so we need to find the highest common factor of the numbers first. The highest common factor of 2 and 4 is 2. Then we have our common letter x, and the power in x is 1 and 1, so therefore the highest common factor in x is just x. Then we open bracket and find our two terms that we need to multiply to get our original expression. So 2x times y is 2xy, and 2x times positive 2 will give us 4x. Next problem, numbers and letters combined again. So find the highest common factor of 3 and minus 6, and that is 3. Then we have common letters x, one with the power of 1, one with the power of 2, so we choose the smaller power, so that will be x. And then we open bracket and we will find our two terms. So 3x times 1 will give us 3x, and 3x times minus 2x will give us minus 6x squared. Final problem, we have numbers and letters again. Find the highest common factor of the numbers. So highest common factor of 5 and 10 is 5. Then we have y squared and y, common letter being y, and the powers are 1 and 2, so we choose a smaller power, which means that our highest common factor in y is y. Then we open bracket to get our other two terms. 5y times y gives 5y squared, and 5y times 2 will give us 10y. Got some extension problems, and so again we're going to put the terms in the relevant boxes. 3xy squared and 15 minus 15y cubed. We know our highest common factor. We have letters and numbers together, so find the highest common factor of the numbers, which is 3. And then we have y being common, one with squared and one with cube, so we choose a smaller of the two powers, so it's y squared that we're going to place outside for our highest common factor. Then we'll find our two terms that will multiply to give 3xy squared and minus 15y cubed. 3y squared times x will give us 3xy squared, and 3y squared times a minus 5y will give us minus 15y cubed, and so our answer will be 3y squared open bracket x minus 5y. Another problem, 5xb squared minus 15x squared b cubed. We know the highest common factor when factorizing. We have a 5 and a minus 15. The highest common factor is 5 for the numbers. We have x that is common to both terms, one in x to the power of 1 and one in x to the power of 2, so we are going to select the smaller of the two powers, so x to the power of 1 goes outside. Then b is also common. We have b squared b cubed, and so we'll have to choose a smaller of the two, and that will be b squared. Then all we need to do is find the two terms to multiply, and so our first term, we need 5x b squared times positive 1 to give us 5xb squared, and then for other term we need a minus 3 to get minus 15 x and b. So our answer is going to be 5xb squared open bracket 1 minus 3xb. If we expand using our grid, we will also get the original expression. Final extension problem, I'd like you to pause the video, give it a go. Once you're through, unpause and check for your answer. Okay, I'm going to put the two terms in the appropriate boxes. And so we have numbers and letters combined, so we need the highest common factor from that. So we have we have 18 and minus 15, positive 18 minus 15. We're going to find the highest common factor for those two numbers, and that's 3. Then we're going to look if there are any common variables. P is common. We have p to the power of 4, p to the power of 3, and so we select the smaller power, so that will go outside. So our highest common factor is 3p cubed. Then we find the two terms that we multiply to get the original expression, and so 3 times 6 will give us our 18, and then we need p to get p to the power of 4 and q. Then our next term, we need minus 5 to get minus 15, and our p cubed is already there. So our answer is 3p cubed, open bracket, 6pq minus 5. 2, I'd like you to go to show my homework and open the link that you're seeing here and choose to do bronze, silver, or gold. The instructions are also included in the show my homework description. Spend 25 minutes doing these questions. Once you are through, you can go to the answer link and mark your answers, then send me a picture of what you have done for this lesson. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.